Hello, everybody. This is Grim. We are doing an audio test. Ender, Starlet, VMXCO, can you chime in? Let me hear you.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Hello out there in Radio Land.
Hey, just wanted to say thank you to STARJUMP Ender for the raid. You are amazing, and we appreciate you.
I was going to do a thank you at the beginning of the show. You just took the wind out of my sails.
Oh, I took your thunder.
You know what?
Fuck.
I'm going to do it again. I'm just going to thank you again.
You know what?
Everyone in chat.
Hey, Amber, thanks for the raid.
Just to cut in, I think we should thank STARJUMP Ender for the raid.
We probably should.
I don't know if you caught that.
We'll think about it. Hopefully everyone in chat can hear us. We are restreaming, so we're on Twitch and YouTube. You'll be able to see both chats on the screen, though, as you're watching. Let us know if you all can hear our voices okay. Are we 5x5? Is this sounding good? Check 1, check 2. We'll wait for a confirmation here by one of our awesome community members that we are 5x5.
So I'm not going to lie, I'm not hearing us currently.
Okay. Let's let me double check
on the stream. We went through all that for nothing, guys.
It's all good. It's all good. We're going to. They should be hearing us. Check 1, check 2.
Testing. Hello.
Let me hit up YouTube real quick. Checking YouTube.
5x5, Bingo says. Thank you, Bingo. Appreciate it. Bingo says 5x5. All right, everybody, we're going to be right back. We're going to go ahead and hit the show open, and then we will start the show. Hang up. We'll be right back. All right. I think we're live. Hello. Check 1, check 2. We're back, everybody. I am STARJUMP Grim. This is STARJUMP Station. We're here for IAE, couple special episodes to kind of talk about the new stuff that's being announced. With me tonight are all the entire STARJUMP pantheon. We have Ender, of course, sitting not next to me, but next to me on screen, which is just as good and just as close as I want him to be. We have VMXCO, or Josh, sitting over there as well, and Starlet, sitting aboard the digital 890 jump in the metaverse. Hey, Starlet, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
It's been a long time since we've all four been on a show, I think. I don't know how long it's been.
I think
so. We're having
the first.
Yeah, so we're having some buffering issues on Twitter right now. It does catch up sometimes. I don't know what the case is with that.
On Twitter?
Or sorry, Twitch. We'll see. All right, we got pre-roll running. We'll see how this goes. We'll try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I might have to do some technical fixing or something. We'll see. If it doesn't work, like I said, we can re-raid you. All right. Hopefully everybody can hear us. We're going to switch back over Hopefully everyone can hear us okay, and that the buffering issues are mostly solved. We'll see how it goes. Let us know, everybody. Sorry about that. Have been having some issues with the internet lately. I don't know if it's my computer or my end, but my computer is also my work, like day job workstation. So at any given time, it's been working its butt off during the day, either rendering or doing some other sort of processing. So there's honestly no telling. Okay.
No,
so
it looks like it's working great now.
Okay, cool. Hopefully it stays working great. Again, we'll see. If it starts getting kind of crazy again, then we might just shut down and we'll do some tech solving and we'll pick this episode back up next week sometimes. Not a big deal. Before we left off, though, we were reintroducing everyone. Starlet told us about what she's been up to this past week, pushing updates to Fleet Viewer. Josh, how you been? What you been up to this week?
I've been doing good. IAE is always an exciting time. So we've got everything that needs to go out for updates for Fleet Viewer, of course. And a few other side little projects. I think some friends know that I work on StarFab.
Yeah.
So that usually is quick checks, make sure CIG didn't change anything on the back end on that. And yeah, they always do. But that got to play around with the Cutter model a little bit.
Cool.
The Cutter, I see the Corsair as well.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that for sure.
Fun times.
Cool. Ender, what you been up to? I kind of know what you've been up to, but tell everybody what you've been up to lately.
Mostly just hanging out, working. World of Warcraft.
Yep.
I got back into that. That may have been a mistake, mostly because I still love it so very much.
I've been having fun with it,
Is
though.
that new expansion out yet?
No, the 28th.
The 28th.
28th.
And I got to tell you, it's
but the pre-patch is
it's
out.
building up to be something good.
Yeah,
the pre-patch is out.
And the new race class combo is out. It's the Drakthir Evoker.
Such a fan.
It's pretty cool.
That's
pretty
big
cool.
fan.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Drakthir. Still Mary, hello.
Yeah, hello to everyone.
And just
chat.
prepping everything for not this weekend, but next weekend. Sunday, we're doing our giveaway for Guardians, and I started everything for that today. So, yeah, we've got that going and ready to go. So,
yeah. Very cool.
Big
well,
time's coming up.
I've also been playing a lot of Warcraft and getting my characters back spec'd up for the imminent release of Dragonflight. I'm actually interested in that story, so that's one I'm going to be fully on board for. Me and Ender have actually been playing WoW since probably off and on, of course, but since 2006, so it's a journey. I mean, I still have the same druid I've had since that time, so it's like it's a member of the family. But anyways, we're not here to talk about WoW. We're here to talk about Star Citizen, and specifically the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, which is currently going on right now, 2952. Started 2 days ago on Friday. Of course, we are red themed on our show package tonight in honor of Drake sponsoring the IAE this year. Obviously, Drake has some new announcements. And then today, of course, was Origin Day. While Origin didn't have any new announcements, we'll just briefly kind of cover some of their stuff. I see Starla is broadcasting live from the 890 jump, so she's right on theme. I am broadcasting, I think, from a dirty hab in Area 18. I can't quite tell. And Ender's obviously working the docks out at Orison. And Josh, where are you at? What are you on board?
I am hanging out in the captain's quarters, my little 400i.
There you go. Okay. Well, these episodes, just so everyone knows, these episodes are going to be kind of short. We're going to do one tonight. We're going to do one Tuesday night next week, which will cover specifically Anvil and Argo, or two manufacturers I'm looking to cover. Argo, maybe not, but definitely Anvil. And then on the next Saturday of next weekend, we will cover all the rest of the days, but specifically, I'm sure it's the worst kept secret in the world. We'll be talking a lot about RSI and specifically some stuff they have to announce. Wait,
so RSI has something?
Supposedly. I think it's a starter ship. I think it's a general purpose starter ship. No, but
the RSI ambiguous space name.
Yeah. It's not the Aurora. That's the ship we're going to talk. No, so let's dive right into it for the sake of time. Let's talk about Drake. Obviously, going into this IAE, the worst kept secret was obviously the Corsair, and it wasn't really let me go ahead and bring that up, by the way. It wasn't really an IAE ship or like an IAE surprise ship. It was just simply a ship that lined up with IAE's release. They usually have that every year. There's always like one ship that's like coming out around IAE time, that people know about. It's going flight ready and stuff. The Corsair, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I know chat will correct me here if need be, but I believe the Corsair was announced in either 2017 or 2019. Can anyone remind me? 2017 or 2019, I forget, one of those days. Anyways, so it's been a concept ship for a few years. It's made to compete with the Connie series, maybe the 400i, somewhere around in there. But I think by default, it also kind of competes with the Mercury Star Runner. But we're just going to go right into it. A lot of people, and I want to get all of y'all's thoughts on the Corsair. If you've tried it out, what you think of it, what you think of its initial design. I'll just jump right off the bat, though. A lot of people have been watching my streams lately know I kind of list 5 ships as like my desert island ships, the ones I've really been waiting on. And the Corsair is one of those. It's kind of like my daily driver, multi-crew daily driver ship that's always been on that list. So for me, it was a very, very big deal that it was coming out. But before I give my opinions on this long-awaited ship, let's dive into everyone else. Who wants to start? Thoughts on the Drake Corsair? And chat, feel free to chime in. Start. So it's all on you.
Drake is my most favorite manufacturer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course. You bought
no, I
two
seriously,
cutters, right?
I think Drake people will be very happy.
Yeah, it's kind of like the ship they were missing, right? Because it was the Cutlass has been around for so long that Drake fans, for a daily driver, really only had kind of the Cutlass to work with. Now I know some people will use like the Herald and Buck for daily stuff, but the Cuddy was really their general purpose daily driver. But now that's changed a bit. So.
I really like the elevator to the roof. I think that's so much fun. I hope other ships get that.
Yeah, I'm thinking the 600i will get it. It seems like something the 600 would get. And they talked a little bit about on the was it Inside Star Citizen or Star Citizen Live just the other day on how they talked a bit about the 600i rework, actually quite a bit, and they showed layouts for all the exploration and the what's the other model, the touring model. But they talked about a lift that will go from ground level to the two levels in the ship. I almost wonder if, with the popularity of this rooftop elevator, if they'll do something with the 600 with this. But Josh, Ender, what are you guys' thoughts on the Corsair? Have you got a chance to try it out in game?
I have. I haven't flown it a whole lot. You want to go first, Ender? Give us your 2 cents.
Oh no, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I am impressed with the Corsair interior, especially, and the reason why is the Drake design language in the interior has matured so much. If you compare it to like the Cutlass interior, the Cutlass, it's stripped down, it's bare bones, and it's just not that interesting in my opinion. It's one of the things that kind of turns me off against Drake. Walking in the Corsair, it's still stripped down and utilitarian, but there's so many little details that they've actually brought out that makes it actually interesting. The random cabling in the engineering section that just drapes down from the ceiling, that MFD that just sits on the floor and still works in the cockpit is the craziest touch. And I know a lot of people have mentioned it. I love it, actually. So there's just a lot of little details that make the ship charming. Even though I am not a Drake fan, I still love it for what it is.
Yeah. Ender, thoughts on the Corsair?
Drake has always been a ship line that I've enjoyed. It's not my favorite, but they're up there. I love the Cutlass quite a bit. Man, the Corsair, they just took the Cutlass, everything I love about the Cutlass, that interior feel, the design of it, and they really ramped it up to like 300%. And I think they really knocked it out of the park with this thing. I mean, you've got the 3 crew beds that come right off of the eating quarters, the galley.
Yeah.
And then you've got the captain's bed right there up front by the pilot's chair. The way that it drops down and gives you such a windowed view for the co-pilot. I mean, everything about that ship. I got on it and fell in love immediately.
Yeah, you just got on board.
Had to have Grim. I was like, Grim, you gotta talk me out of buying this.
Yeah, because you just flew on it like just recently, like an hour ago for the first time,
today,
right?
Yeah, it was the first time I'd actually been in it myself. I did not, so I'm holding off myself
yet.
but we're gonna asterisk on that and say yet. I've got the MSR, and the MSR does a lot of the stuff that the Corsair does, but the Corsair has a lot of really good RP potential there.
Yeah.
That you've got in the MSR, but man, it's different almost. But God, it's a gorgeous ship. It's just enough of an unwieldy ship that I think it's kind of perfect where it's at with a few tiny tweaks.
Remember what I told you yesterday when I was talking about the Corsair? The way I described it was this: you have to work like 5% harder flying the Corsair than flying like the MSR. It's not that it's not fun to fly. And I'm saying this as a Corsair. Like, I love this ship. I'm having such a blast with it. It's kind of got me back into Star Citizen. It's not that it's a bad ship or anything like that. I love it, but it does make you work for it a little bit more. It's a little harder to control. It's extremely front end nose heavy. Matter of fact, if you aren't paying attention, the thing will nosedive to the ground. And it doesn't turn left very well, especially if you're even one notch over the SEM speed limit. If you're up in the red on the SEM speed limiter, it does not turn at all. The ship, it's so weird.
You better be wanting to go straight, because that's where you're going.
Yeah, but you mentioned there's something about the Cutlass, and I think it's really interesting that both the Corsair and the Cutter have come out in the same patch, and we're going to get to the Cutter, but one of the descriptors people have used with the Cutter is it's like a mini Cutlass. The original concept brief for the Corsair was that it was going to be a super Cutlass. So I think it's kind of interesting that we've got these two ships coming out on the same day that really bookend the Cutlass series, which is arguably one of the most popular ship series in the game. We've now got two ships that came flight ready that bookend those, and now Drake fans and people coming into the game really have a nice gradient within the Drake to find their perfect starter ship in terms of how much buy-in. You see the same thing with Origin, for example. They have the 100 series, the 300 series, and the 400, and then on up to. So we're starting to see that with Drake, where all those gaps are being filled. And so it's kind of like we got the mini Cutlass, the Cutlass, and now the super Cutlass, which is in. And if you actually go back and look at the original Corsair concept images on the subscriber vault, they have some concept images of the Corsair that look much more like a super Cutlass. It looks like a Cutlass that's been elongated, and it's got bigger engines and all that kind of stuff. The Corsair is where it kind of fell out, but someone in chat had mentioned that it's got a really iconic look. And I actually agree with that and think that that's one of the main reasons that CIG put the Corsair on the loading image now for Star Citizen when you start the game, because it does have such an iconic look. And I think it's going to be one of those ships that when you see it, you think Star Citizen going forward. I think one of some of my thoughts on the Corsair is that I know that a lot of people have been saying, and this is a love-hate thing I think people have. Josh, you said that you really like the wires kind of hanging in the engineering room and the MFD on the floor and the cockpit and stuff. A lot of people hate that. I saw a whole Spectrum thread that said, take the MFD off the floor. But here's what I like about it. The reason I like that in the Drake aesthetic is not because it kind of can look junky or anything like that. To me, it looks like a ship that's been lived in. It looks like it has a story to tell. It looks like people have been flying around in that ship for a long time, and they've had a lot of adventures, versus a pristine environment where it feels like it just rolled off the showroom. So that's what I think of, honestly, when I think of Drake, is that it looks lived in, not junky or anything. It just looks lived in. So I know that will hopefully change in the future when persistence is truly in and we can lay things around in our ships and decorate our ships and stuff. All ships will start to get that. But that's the first thing I noticed in the Corsair, is that it felt like a crew had been aboard this ship for a while, you know what I mean, and been doing their stuff, and living within this ship. So I love that. And you can see those little details even in like the crew quarters, how like the nets that hold all the baggage kind of hang down, but they kind of droop a little bit, like they've been holding baggage for a while, and I love those bits of detail. I think the ship has excellent visibility. I think the ship originally only had one big problem that was always the asterisk when people talked about this ship, which was its side turrets and how they didn't have very good arcs. Now they damn near rotate to center bore sight for the pilot, so that's amazing. So pretty much remove that issue. The ship, in my opinion, only has two major drawbacks. If you're considering purchasing the ship, that you need to consider over a Connie or an MSR. And these two drawbacks are two drawbacks that I think are issues with the ship. And I'm saying this as someone who's a big fan. One, the ship sits too low on the ground. I think it has landing clearance issues. I know I was having trouble even finding a stable enough landing area on a pretty flat area. And that's a problem when you have a ship that has a drop down ramp in the back that you need to be able to get vehicles in and out. If that ramp is even a foot off the ground elevated, it's not going to work. Now, we do know CIG is working on the tech to allow ramps and elevators to touch the ground no matter what, but we haven't seen it yet. The other major flaw the ship has is it really has no protection towards its rear. I mean, it has that one remote turret, which, Ender, do you know, is that size 2? I can't remember what it is. Size 2, maybe? It doesn't have much for all the firepower it has going forward. It does not have much on the rear. So it's not a ship you want to get caught with someone shooting at you from behind, because the ship does have 25% less hull hit points than the Connie does, which is significant. I think the Connie is 20,000 hit points. I think the Corsair is 15,000. That's not an insignificant amount. So those are the two big caveats if you're considering buying this ship. Does anybody want to chime in on that? Thoughts on that? Is that going to hold the ship back?
It won't hold it back in my eyes. But I will say that, no, you pretty much hit the nail on the head with everything you just said. I kind of like to think of what you said with, it feels lived in. I kind of like to think of Origin as a shuttle that just took off for the first time, on their way to Europa, right?
Yep.
And then you've got Crusader, and they've been on board Europa or, towards Europa for 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Drake. They've been back from Europa 4 times now, and they're about to go back out, and it's just being held together by a thread.
Yeah.
And it's been lived in. And you're right. I don't know why anybody would want the MFD off the floor. Is it a pointless place to put it? Maybe. But at the same time, who cares? Like it's less about usefulness, I think, and more about kind of giving you that feeling that it has been lived in.
Well,
it's more aesthetic than use.
You'll remember what I said.
I would say
it's a size 2 turret.
It's all about personality with this ship. Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It gives it character. It tells a story. It gives it a little bit of a charm.
That's what they're going for. People are like, pull that MFD off the floor because they want an extra MFD.
Yeah.
But they're not quite thinking of it from a role play standpoint, an MMO standpoint.
Here's something, too, to think about with Star Citizen ships. I see this happen all the time in other communities and other content creator streams and everything else. I'll see people say, I like XYZ ship, but I'm not buying it for this one reason. And the one reason is always so strange to me. They'll be like, I'm not buying it because the Corsair with those giant wings is going to easily get them shot off. It's like, if you judge every ship by one superfluous weakness, I promise you can find a weakness in every single ship. They all have
You're
them.
never buying a ship.
You need to buy a ship because, in my opinion, this is my opinion, but I say buy a ship because it speaks to you, both in style and substance, vibe, personality, all that stuff. Make sure its role is something that you want to do in the future. And remember, not every ship is a specific role. Some of them are more just general purpose ships. And this ship, while called an exploration ship, to me, it's a general purpose ship. Can carry a vehicle, can carry some cargo, can do some combat stuff, whatever. It's a general purpose ship. Make sure it fits the role. I think the number one thing, because obviously the big topic with the Corsairs is it going to get nerfed? You should not be buying this ship if you're afraid of nerfing at all. It may be nerfed, then it may be buffed later, then maybe nerfed again, and then buffed again. Every value in the game right now, to me, in relation to combat and hit points and all that, is completely temporary. We do not have major ship systems in game that are going to dictate all that stuff. We don't have them. So right away, the numbers are completely fake right now. If you go to the progress tracker, you can type in breakability, and you'll see breakabilities currently has been worked on for like 99 weeks, like almost 2 years, and is currently scheduled to be finished sometime in December, or at least according to progress tracker, at least that sprint being finished. Breakability is key. It literally says in the descriptor for breakability that it determines what happens and how much damage occurs when a ship is impacted by a weapon. So that's a subsystem they don't even have in the game yet, and it connects with armor and stuff like that. And armor's another thing, being able to repair components, subcomponents, all this stuff. So all those numbers on DPS and all that, they're fake right now. They're stand-in numbers to make the game playable for the moment, but they have really no bearing on what the ship will be once some of those systems come in. I can guarantee you, if you buy a ship right now because it flies really well, don't forget, we don't even have control surfaces in the game yet. We know they're coming. They've mentioned them. When control surfaces come in the game, you can expect all these ships to fly completely differently. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're thinking of buying a ship in Star Citizen. I wouldn't get too... Yeah.
Always remember that you can buy ships in game.
Exactly. And I wouldn't get hung up on if a ship is slightly better than another ship, so you're going to buy the one that's slightly better. That may not last. So buy a ship that you just connect with and that you like if you're going to buy a ship at all. If you're going to invest the money, make sure it's something you're going to have fun with, right? I will say they are offering the Corsair. I believe it's... $250, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but they do have a War Bond pack. I think it's $250 for a Drake Dragonfly and a Corsair. Nice little combo pack. Go check them out. But let's go ahead and move on to the next Drake ship that was announced. Let's go ahead and clear the canvas. We're going to talk about Ender's favorite ship. That is the Drake Cutter, which is the new Drake starter ship. Something that me and Ender had talked about before IAE, that this was a possibility, although we thought it was a long shot compared to some of the other options we were thinking of. But
yeah.
But let's talk about the Cutter. I'm going to hand it over to Josh first, because I know you said that you had been checking out the Cutter. Tell us what you think about it. Maybe give us a brief description on what the Cutter is. What's it supposed to do?
It's horrendously ugly. It's awkwardly shaped. And it's basically the pug of Drake's ships, and I love it.
Oh my god, that is the best description ever.
It kind of looks like it does have some nostrils up front.
It's got that weird, awkward shape. It's not a sleek design. The Corsair is, a great example of it's a Drake ship. It looks actually pretty slick. This one just feels awkward and a little bit slow. And I think they nailed exactly what they were trying to convey. I love everything. Again, I am not a Drake fan. I'm not going to get one of these. I'll probably not fly them around. I loved being inside of it. It instantly made me think, especially for a starter ship, it did something that the Aurora and the Mustang can't do. And that is to give a new player a sense of home. It's not simply to get them to the next station. It's a livable ship. And the interior spaces, again, so many little details, little buttons on things, the wires. It's got those little rotating, huge whole sections where the engines come in, kind of like the Corsair does. And it just felt like an actual ship that you were ready to set out and make your adventure, your money, your fortunes in the universe in. And I think they nailed it.
Yeah.
People are calling it slug. A couple of people have said fat banana. I don't quite get the banana on that one, but I got to tell you, pug is the absolute best description I've ever heard, and I appreciate that so much. Wow. Yeah. I do like that it feels lived in.
Yeah. What's funny about it though is if you take a cutlass, cut off the rear wings and rear rotating engines, cut off the front fins, chop the cockpit off, this is the body shape. I mean, it really is. And it's and what's kind of funny too is the cockpit windscreen area of the ship are really kind of the co-pilot part of the Corsair, but flipped upside down. So there's a lot of like little parts and pieces that kind of plug in. The engines, by the way, those rotating engines, those are miniature versions of the Vulture engines. If you've ever but rotated 90 degrees. If you take those engines, rotate them 90 degrees on the x-axis, they are the Vulture engines. So it's cool. It speaks to that Drake idea of borrowing parts and pieces from other ships and creating new things. So.
Yeah.
Two things that actually surprised me about the.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. I was going to say two things that actually.
I'll moderate. Starlet, go ahead.
Okay. Lag. It is a starter ship, so it's a first impressions thing, right? I guess.
Yeah.
When someone logs in with a starter pack, this is their ship. They use it to go back and forth and get the idea of the game for a day, half a day, an hour, and then they're on to other ships.
Right.
So I don't think it's a ship to aim for, but I think it's nice that it has lots of systems that will reflect how the game works, and you get to see that a bit earlier than some of the other starter ships. But what's cool is that for people who are unreasonably obsessed with LTI, this offers an LTI game package at a discount, which is kind of rare and historically in the last few years. So that's kind of nice. LTI note is not required and probably doesn't have that much value, but seems to have theoretical value right now.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That is kind of a rare thing to have a ship that is an LTI token, essentially, but with the game package included. I almost forgot about that, but I had read about that. I might have to pick up another one just for that. Josh, what were you about to say?
Oh, no, we were talking about design elements taken from other ships. And one of the things that surprised me the most was the cockpit. Because if you look at most of the other Drake ships, and I'm running through them in my head, the cockpit glass is usually much longer, much more sloped. Buccaneer, the Caterpillar, the Cutlass all have the longer, almost fighter style. This one, the cockpit feels almost like they lifted it out of the Nomad. For two reasons. One, it's got a much closer sloped surface, but also the chair actually pops up and raises. Not like the Cutlass straight up, but it has that little ramp that comes up. So I found that was an interesting design decision that they made. It fits the ship well. It's just not what we're used to seeing on Drake, and I'm curious to see how much farther they take the Drake design language.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even here you can see on the Corsair, there's that bottom cockpit area. If you took that and flipped it upside down, it's got the same sort of design language. The front of the Corsair, as a matter of fact, let me switch to the frontal view. You can probably see it. You'll notice on the Corsair how this window, it actually banks down here. These little insets. The Cutter does the same thing with these little insets on the window. It's little small details like that, but they those things matter when you're designing this stuff. And again, there's been a lot of carryover with that type of thing with Drake. I will say too that much like you said, this is one of the few ships that gives you that experience. Here's why I think it's a successful starter ship. And again, whether you like the ship or dislike the ship for its looks or whatever, that's all subjective. I mean, everyone's got ships they don't like and like. But what's important about this ship is that this is a great starter ship because if someone tries it out, it gives them an idea of what a multi-cruise ship is kind of like. So, because this is really a multi-cruise ship just scaled down to one person, right? If you scaled this up, though, it's got the living space, the cargo area, is separated out. You're getting a sense of that you can't get in like an Aurora or a Mustang or any of that. If I had to pick the 3 best starters now out of all the starter ships, I would pick the Cutter is number 1, the Pisces is number 2, and the Titan is number 3 in that order of like how I would recommend them to someone. The other thing about the Cutter is it actually is a really fast little ship in a straight line. It doesn't turn all that great, but it is really fast in a straight line, which is kind of nice, especially if you're just like exploring planet side. And I can totally see the Cutter being that perfect ship to have, parked in your 890 jump hangar. Or that's a joke, by the way, it didn't translate well. Or sitting on your outpost landing pad, you know what I mean? Someone asked me, did I get a Cutter as my, parasite craft for the Kraken? And I was like 100%. This will be parked on the Kraken at all times because it's the perfect ship to get from Kraken to surface easily back and forth. You know what I mean? I can see, some of the links we're talking about, I guess originally when they were concepting this ship, I guess there was going to be some variance, or maybe that was discussed at one point. Obviously, that's not the way they went with it. I will say, however, that I could easily see how they could make some variants of this in the future. One variant I see could be like a little drop ship, with seating in the back with a bunch of little drop seats. I could see one being it would be interesting to have one of these, for example, that was more of a dedicated cargo variant that lost some of its like habitation area for even more cargo. There's a lot of ways they could go with this, but I could definitely see a dropship version. Or tell me right now, would this ship not make another perfect little medical shuttle right up there with the Pisces? It's got plenty of room in it, and it's got VTOL capability. It'd be a perfect little medical shuttle. So again, I think there could be variants of this in the future, but I flew it around. I really love it. And I'm just going to say both this and the Corsair came with black and yellow paint variants or yellow and black paint variants, I should say, where yellow is the dominant. And it looks so good. All Drake ships should have a yellow variant. I don't know why it works. It just works. It just really does work on a Drake ship. I don't know why. Yellow is like probably one of my least favorite colors. But for some reason on a Drake ship, it just works. It really does. So, all right, so that was Drake's announcements. Obviously, Drake had their usual packages for sale, the Drake Complete Pack and all that good stuff. Obviously, it had 2 hull limited ships up for sale in 3 waves on Friday. That would be in the Kraken and the Kraken Privateer. However, I personally recommend you get the Kraken and then get the conversion kit if you want an option for Privateer. That's what I have. I have the Kraken and then just the Privateer conversion kit. But hopefully anyone out there that was hoping to get a Kraken, hopefully you snagged it on the wave. I know it's a stressful time if you're trying to get a whole limited ship. Good luck to you if you're trying to get any more for the rest of the year or for the rest of the event.
I know a few of the guys that were in my stream. I think we had 2 or 3.
Yep.
That snagged one this year. So yeah. How do you get the conversion kit? Shimpasta is asking.
So once you buy the Kraken, the conversion kit will be made available as an option. I think it's in the extras section of the pledge store. Like if you go to, you have to log in obviously, but then if you go to like pledge store and then go to the extras dialog where you can find like the Idris P to K conversion kit and stuff, they have a privateer conversion kit in there. I think it's $350. And you can apply it to your Kraken if you want. I just keep mine as the conversion kit in the hangar, if it's ever needed. So, but anyways, last thing I'll say about these 2 ships is that the Cutter and the Corsair. The in-game models have been added to Fleet Viewer, so you can check those out. Ender showed them on his stream, but we also added some more supporter ships in there. We added the Soul Citizens Genesis, the Fast Cart Merchantman, the STARJUMP Guardians Apollo Medevac, as well as 2 ships for one of our patron supporters, Drake Steel Mary, for his org. Don't forget, you can support us on Patreon, and if you want, there's some tiers there where you can get supporter ships in the Fleet Viewer. But I think these came out great. VMXEO handled the Corsair and the Cutter. I think they came out absolutely great. And one cool thing we did with the Corsair this time, and we did it specifically because the footprint of the ship is so different when you spawn it, and I know a lot of people kind of like to see those metrics sometimes. We did a both landed and non-landed variant of the Corsair. I love that we did that. Gives you a little bit of an idea of how much space it'll take up on a pad of a Kraken or something. So that is Drake Day. Anybody got anything else to say about Drake before we just talk about Origin for a second and then wrap it up?
Yeah, you made a really good point on your stream the other day that almost all of the Drake ships are in game already. That was curious.
Yeah, I mean, almost all of them are, they're all done now. The Vulture is essentially done. Not in game yet, but it'll come in 3.18.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah, but I consider it done. Corsair's out, Cutter's out. The only Drake ship not to be, in development right now is the Kraken. The funny thing about that, though, and and honestly, I'm not saying this because I'm a big Kraken fan. It honestly, to me, if they were going to take a capital ship into development right now, it should be the Kraken. It has the most usage going into Pyro. I don't totally get why the Banu Merchantman was put in the pipeline, but whatever, that's fine. To me, the Kraken has the most immediate usage, and I know some people will instantly say, oh, but it's crew counts and servers. Well, servers hold 100 people, and the max crew count for the Kraken currently is 10 people, so that's enough to fly the ship and do turrets and have an engineer even. So
I think it's going to be hard for them to justify putting limited quantity ships in game just because they're limited quantity. That's a big problem, I think.
Yeah. And so I had a question actually, and I meant to ask you this earlier, Graham, but now's as good a time as any to ask it. The large Kraken that they have at the IAE Expo Hall right now, is that any different? Is that hollow model any different than any previous ones? Is it more updated, or is it just because it's bigger, we're seeing more?
We're just seeing it bigger. It's the same model it's always been. It's essentially the and Josh, correct me if I'm wrong. It's the cinematic model, is what it is, I think.
And I believe that's the one that's been sitting in the Cousin Crows.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's also the one in Fleet Viewer, essentially. Yeah. Only the Fleet Viewer one has been dressed up a lot. Actually, there's been some stuff like texture wise. No, it's the same one. I know some people popped in. The reason that the Kraken was so much bigger is they just didn't have any more hollow ships to show. It's just the Kraken now. Yeah. So same thing. I don't think there's been any advancement on that. Back in the day, I used to ask Sir Piggles if there's been any advancement, and every now and then he'd let me know of a mention of it in the code here or there, but nothing that we've seen. I see Execute in chat says he got his Kraken. Really happy for you, dude. I know you've been wanting to get that for a while, so salute to a fellow Kraken captain, as I call it. So you're now part of the exclusive club. We'll send out your swag bag. No, I'm just kidding. I wish there was. I do wish if you bought whole limited ship, you got like something from CIG Physical for it. That would be really cool. But yeah, no. I will say though that I think the Kraken should go into production, and I think it would be one of the most useful ships in game, and to help bring like people together in game. It's the perfect ship for it. They would borrow heavily from the Drake library already. There's no real technology issues that I can think of with the Kraken to hold it back, except for one, and that is the air car inside of it. But beyond the air car, there's nothing in the Kraken that they don't currently have working in game. So that being said, though, I obviously think it's going to be a while, because I agree with Starlet. I do wonder what the impetus is for them to put hull limited ships in development. I know the 890 was done, but I guess that was more of a test case. And the Polaris is probably going to be the next big ship to go into production, and that's not hull limited anymore.
It's a bit like the Corsair as well. Like you kind of have to have a bit of imagination for the Corsair. There's no other systems yet.
Right.
There's no as in star systems to travel to long range. The current game has a light fighter meta. Doesn't really make sense right this moment. You have to have a bit of imagination, and I think that's the next step of capital ships and limited ships, is that you need that extra level of imagination right now.
Yeah, I see. Execute is saying that the conversion kit is not on the website. Interesting. I'll see if I can find it. I'm assuming
that
it
is
would have
interesting.
been. Although I will say, last IAE, the conversion kit just didn't appear for a long time until I think someone had to point it out to them, and then they finally went, "Oh yeah, it's not there," and then they turned it on. So yeah. Anyway.
I think you have to have one to see the conversion kit, right?
You do. You have to own it. Yep.
Yeah.
But Execute's saying he can't see it, and he bought a Kraken. So if you're not seeing it there, CIG might need to be pinged, because you're. And here's the other thing about it. I
it's in the add-on section of the pledge store if it's there.
Yeah, I think it's in the add-on section, correct. And I think it's like the Idris conversion kit. It stays up all the time then, not just IAE. I think you can buy it at any time, I think. Because I know the Idris conversion kit, even when IAE's over, you can still buy it as long as you own an Idris.
Yeah, you would have one of them.
Yeah, I think people are seeing. Yeah, you can have one of them. Sorry, you can buy one of them.
One Idris kit.
They did. Okay, Bearded Guy's saying they didn't add the conversion kit. Someone should probably ping them and ask them if they are, because this happened last IE with the conversion kit. I know, because I was trying to buy one, and someone had to add it. Shimpasta, the difference between the Kraken and the Privateer is pretty much the internals are completely changed. You lose fuel tanks and storage capacity and all that for internal shops and stuff like that. Sort of like a bigger BMM. We'll do another episode on the Kraken at some point, believe me. Real quick though, so that this episode doesn't go too long, let's talk about Origin just for a short bit. Obviously, Starlet's in the 890 now, and VMXEO's in his 400, but it's Origin Day today. No new offerings from them. However, I think it was a pretty exciting day for a lot of people, simply because CIG's been talking a lot about the 600i rework, which is interesting because it's not in production. So I feel like they're getting people hyped up for the rework when it's not actually moving forward. But I think people are really excited for it, and they probably sold a lot of 600i's today. Would you two agree with that?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the 600i hasn't been that popular in the past, just because it's been slightly wonky inside.
Yeah, but they've really been talking it up. They just did 2 Inside Star Citizen, or an Inside Star Citizen and a Star Citizen Live, where they talked about it and really showed a lot of the same images. And I was kind of like, okay, we've seen this. Part of me was wondering if they were just showing it again so they could get some sales on Origin Day, which again, I'm fine with. Whatever. Fun the game.
I was quite surprised to see a Tonk in the back. That seems like quite an upgrade.
It does. Yeah, it seems like quite an upgrade. It's really interesting what the funny thing is, the exploration variant, their reworked concept images didn't do much for me. It looked a little too cold. However, the touring variant looks stunning. It looked great. Like, it looks like it borrows from the 400 and the 890 in really good ways, and that could get me excited.
Expedition instead of exploration. I'm not or explorer. I'm not sure why they made the choice to change the language.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's weird.
One of the big things though is they did talk about medical bay and the 600i going forward. Again, that being able to carry a Tonk, all these things. I mean, I think they probably sold a lot because people are almost looking at it now like a new ship that's going to be coming out. You know what I mean? But I think the big takeaway was just that John Cruz said, well, and then the other developers that were on Star Citizen Live is, the reconcepting's done, but it's not in production. They got to find a slot for it, which means it could be years away. So, see Jed in chat. Jed, hello. Hope you're doing well. We saw Jed at the Equinox event. But yeah, So I think they did probably as usual though, sold some 400i's today. I think they got sold some 600i's, and I think the 890 waves went pretty quick from what I heard. Just talking to some people, I think the 890 waves went pretty fast. So yeah, so it was Origin. Anything to say about Origin before we head off? Obviously, they didn't have any new offerings, but go ahead, Josh.
I kind of want to talk about the lack of new offerings. There are 2 ground vehicles still in concept that I'm actually a little bit curious about, the G series as well as the X1 series. And that's a little bit curious. We've had other vehicles come out in the time span that the G12 series has been announced.
Well, and the other thing with the X1 went into development, like active development, and then is paused, and it's still showing as in development, but work doesn't pick up on it until like May of next year. So it's going to end up being like a 70-week sprint for this hover bike. Yeah.
And you have vehicles like the 400i with a garage specifically for the X1. So I'm wondering where we haven't heard anything about it. Did they get put on the back burner for other priorities? Are there tech
I think it's for marketing. So LTI is only on a ship when it first gets announced, the concept sale.
Yeah.
And for future sales, the sort of general rule is it's not LTI.
Mm-hmm.
They need LTI tokens for every single sale. So they have to build new vehicles, not the ones that have been promised before, that have already been up for sale once.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting is for ground vehicles, we just got the Mule. Too many damn names in Star Citizen. The Mule, and they did talk on Star Citizen Live that they are working on the Lynx. So the Lynx sounds like it's going to be more of a. It sounded like there was going to be more of like a variant to the Ursa, but because they said it uses the same wheelbase and the same and that the whole like the same wheels and all that. So I'll be interested to see what the Lynx is. I believe the Lynx is supposed to come with the Connie series. Am I correct on that? Like it's supposed to come with one of them. I guess part of the package.
Phoenix that comes with the Lynx? I can't remember. Yeah, one of them does.
I think it's the Phoenix. Yeah,
the Phoenix. Okay. So
I think.
Yeah,
I can't guarantee that. It might be wrong information, but
so John Crew did
some
say
of the
that's
vehicle
in white
packs had
box.
links in them.
Yeah. So John Crew did say that the Lynx is in white box, so that is something they talked about being in active, active development. And then they talked about the SRV. I think the SRV will probably be put on either 319 or definitely 4.0. It's got to be one of those patches. I could see it fitting nicely in 319, to be quite honest with you. We know there is going to be a 319 patch. They've talked about it. And then what else do we have in development? Did they talk about anything else? Oh, there is one other thing I wanted to talk about before we head off tonight, and it's something that was said on the Inside Star Citizen Live. I didn't want to diverge too much from Drake and Origin tonight, but there is one thing I wanted to say because this could affect people's purchases during the IAE event. And it was something they said about the BMM. They talked a little bit about the BMM, but John Crew said something really interesting on Star Citizen Live about it. I might be reading too much into it, but I think it was interesting they brought it up at all because they know people are really excited for the BMM. They've been showing it off like crazy. It's been in active development for a while. It's, BMM. But they made a point to say that we're at a crossroads with the BMM and we now need to decide if we should put a pin in it and come back to it later, or do we commit resources to it and finish it? I think they're trying to soften the blow that they're about to put a pin in the BMM.
I think so.
No.
I think they're saying, hey, it's time to either dunk or get off the pot for this. And I think getting off the pot makes more sense than giving us the BMM. To me, pulling the BMM out right now, and I see already people give BMM, but I got to be honest with you. I want a BMM. I'm buying a Gemini this year.
Yeah, I have one too.
Get a BMM. Like I'm upgrading to it immediately. But we don't need a BMM in our universe right now. It
Especially
makes
if
no sense.
But we don't need anything in the universe right now.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess if use a bigger universe.
Yeah, I guess if you were going to argue anything for the BMM, it would be its massive cargo capacity, but we're going to be getting that with the Hull C anyway. And hell, the Hull C carries more. So the BMM is an odd choice of a ship for them to have put in production. I think they felt the pressure, though, to move forward on it because it is so old. I think they feel a little bit of the same pressure probably with the Polaris and the Endeavor and some of those real old concepts. As a matter of fact, I think that when they do show off stuff like the Odyssey, they kind of go, I hope this gets people distracted from the Endeavor for a while because we're not going to touch that ship. So, originally, if people remember, I think it goes back 2 years now at this point, but the Polaris had been scheduled for active production, and then it went off the schedule, and they came and said, hey, it went off temporarily. We're going to get it back on the schedule at some point. We'll let y'all know when. And they really made it sound like it was a temporary thing. Well, that's been like 2 years now. Now the BMM filled its slot. So I'm really interested to see if the BMM ends up getting a pin stuck in it and they move on to another ship, because what John Crew said specifically was he said, does it make more sense to do other ships that would bring more immediate value to the verse? And
what that means
specifically
to really harsh.
And here's what they were talking about when he said it. They were talking about the Vulture and how they want to bring ships online specifically with gameplay in mind. He goes, and he fully admitted, he was like, we don't always do that. And sometimes he goes, the gameplay's not ready or we're not ready or whatever. He goes, but it really is what we're trying to do. And he goes, we could have released the Vulture by now. He goes, but we're holding off just because it should come with cargo. Same thing with the Hull C. They said the same thing. It's been done for a while essentially, but they're holding off for the cargo, for physicalized cargo. So it just makes me wonder, well, then what ship would go in? We know we're going to Pyro. We've heard some leaks in relation to RSI. We'll talk about that as we get closer to the RSI show. But I wonder if they're going to prioritize something that's a little bit more relevant. I see Bearded Guy says in chat, the Nautilus is half done. CIG's come out and said the Nautilus is not been touched and it's still a concept mesh. Maybe that's true. If it is, I'll say it's one of the most advanced concept meshes I've ever seen in my life. But regardless, I think the Nautilus could be a great ship to get in game, specifically because I think Pyro would be the perfect test playground for mines and minefields. Not just minefields for the Nautilus, but minefields in general, like Xenothreat minefields and shit like that. But anyway, I digress a little bit. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the BMM. I just wanted to say that to everyone. So if you are looking into making any big ship purchase and stuff, keep that in mind, that the BMM may not be next summer. You know what I mean? They may very well put a pin in it. And I think the very simple fact that Crew brought that up at all, because of course they know that's going to cause a little bit of a shitstorm with the people that were waiting for it. The fact that they brought that up at all, I think, at least means that they are heavily considering putting a pin in it, and they probably wanted to say it to gauge the response. And if
they have to fund this project, and it's kind of reasonable that they have a formula about what sells well, what makes a good sale, and they have a very small ship team that's not on Squadron 42. I think they've got two of them, right? And the other ones are on Squadron 42. Very limited budget on building ships. They're going to build what funds the project going forward at the right time.
And I won't argue with their system. I just read that this year was now their biggest year now. It's like the most money raised this year. So obviously they've figured out the formula. More power to them. They're funding the game. And remember, they're going to need a lot more money to fund this game. And not just for Star Citizen, but game development in general. I told Ender recently this, but I've talked to some game developer friends of mine who've worked in big studios like Bethesda, who've worked on Starfield and worked on, or who have been working on Elder Scrolls 6. Talked to people that worked at Rockstar for a long time. Ender knows I've known quite a few people at Rockstar. Some of these games they make, they're in development for 10, 12 years and run up budgets of like 700, million practically. In the case of GTA 6, I can tell you just from its initial writing stage, it's been in concept for almost as long as Star Citizen at this point, believe it or not. If you go back to when they started writing the scripts, which is the very first thing they do on GTA games.
Yeah. And Grant, how many people are working on that, by the way?
I was told by my friend at Rockstar that was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 12 or 1,300. people.
Now, think about that, guys. We have, what, 700 people?
Yeah. And to be fair,
CIG?
GTA is an interesting comparison because Star Citizen's kind of 2 games, Star Citizen Squadron 42, and GTA's kind of 2 games. It's GTA 6 and the next version of GTA Online, because they are making a new version of GTA Online for the launch of GTA 6. So there's kind of some parallels there. And you know, the funny thing, my buddy was telling me is just like, yeah, you know, and the because I was telling him, like, Star Citizen's raised like $400-500 million. He's like, yeah, it's for a AAA game, you're gonna need it, every penny of it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's one of those things. It's this game's still long in the tooth, and they're gonna need a lot more funding. So whatever they're doing, rock on. Just make sure you're making smart purchases. Buy within your means. Be careful about buyer's remorse. Use the systems CIG has in place to help you. And what I mean by that is being able to melt, being able to do buybacks, being able to do CCU change. There's plenty of resources out there for that stuff. Lean into it, and remember, as Starlet's brought up a couple times before recently, be careful about giving into that FOMO. I know it feels like you want to ship now, but remember that ship will be on sale next year and the year after, and that's fine. But you also have your own money, and you can make your own decisions with your own money. You're all grown ups, and you know, just do what you would do in any other situation. I bought a Jeep Grand Cherokee about 4 years ago and regret it more than buying the Kraken.
Yep.
So let's just put it that way.
Yep.
That Jeep has been nothing but a money sink. So,
yep.
You know.
So more importantly, don't buy a ship for what you think it is now or what it will be in the future. None of us know. Buy a ship that speaks to you. If you're going to pay money for it, it has to speak to you. Don't buy it because it has, you know, this shield or that gun or this whatever. Get it because it speaks to you.
Yeah.
Please.
Don't worry about naysayers. If you like the ship and you want to get it, get it. If it's slightly less powerful than another ship in its category, that's okay. All those numbers are make-believe right now. It's going to be adjusted a million times between now and when the game is considered even beta.
The best ship for you is one you can't walk away from without looking back at it.
Yeah, exactly.
I get that with my Inferno constantly. I am always looking at my Inferno. It's a beautiful ship.
Yeah.
But if I don't turn around and look at it on my way out, I probably don't need it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So good advice for everyone. Again, we're
in game too. So.
Yeah, exactly. As Starlet said, you can buy all this stuff in game. It's usually a patch cycle later that you can get the newest ships. So don't worry if you're considering the Corsair will be in game for probably $319, I'm sure, to buy. So, anyways, use that for your IAE purchasing advice. Still got a lot of days of IAE to go. IAE. Sorry, I keep saying that wrong. And don't forget that, you know, if the rumors are to be believed, we still have a rather large ship that may or may not be announced towards the end. So conserve your funds if you're interested in that. We're not going to keep anyone any longer. This was always going to be sort of a short episode. We're going to do another episode next Tuesday. I don't know if Ender's going to be able to join us for that one, but I'll be here.
I will try, but
whoever else is available.
Guarantee.
Either way, I'll be doing that episode on Tuesday, just covering Anvil and any other possible ship that's announced. And then next Saturday, we'll do another episode covering what we think will be the RSI announcement. So that being said, hope everyone enjoys IE. Have a great time. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We're going to cut it short here. Go check out StarJump Fleet Viewer.
We are going to raid.
Yes. Ender is going to set up the raid. Josh, Starlet, thanks for joining us tonight. It was great to have the entire StarJump crew assembled.
It was nice.
Ender, go ahead and hit the raid whenever you're ready, buddy.
Yeah, will do. Hey, before we go, guys, remember we're doing a giveaway for Guardians. Yep. Go donate on my channel. $5 donations get you one entry. Next Sunday, we're giving away 2 Drake Vultures and 1 Crusader Spirit Executive Pack. The Vultures, thank you, CIG, for giving those to us. The Crusader Pack is donation from one of our wonderful, wonderful Guardians. Yep. We're doing that next week.
And remember,
$5 donations get you one entry.
Exactly.
It's all for charity.
All for charity. And big shout out to Ender for always putting that charity stuff first. And remember, with those giveaways, the Spirit's in production. It's actually in production. So that's a pretty big deal. And the Vulture's coming out in 3.18 with new gameplay attached. So those are two really good ships to try to win in a contest. So, all right, Ender, let's raid. And thank you, everybody.
Here we go.
Here we go.
All right. We are rated.